Video game adaptations aren't bad anymore. In other news, did you know that pigs fly now?
They fly now? They fly now!
Television and film adaptations of video games have been on a winning streak as of late, predominantly led by the wild success of HBO's The Last of Us television series adaptation that literally everybody watched. Like, it felt like I was dreaming when I kept seeing everybody obsessed with the show. Like, I kept thinking, no, you're not supposed to like this. The only people that know about this are weird nerds like me that play video games and complain about how they didn't cast a real-life version replica of Ellie for the TV show. Video game franchises aren't just dominating television culture though, because the Super Mario Bros. Movie also came out this year and dominated the box office. And a song from that movie even made its way into the Billboard Top 100. So even the music industry isn't safe from video game content now either. While the vast majority of past video game, film and television adaptations have been borderline awful, there have been some decent ones over the decades. Comic book movies had a very similar trajectory in the early days as well. You would have an excellent one like X-Men 2 come out, and then immediately after you would also get movies like Catwoman, Elektra and Blade Trinity trying to follow it. While video game adaptations still have a much rougher track record than comic book movies, every now and then you would get something like the 90s Mortal Kombat and the first Tomb Raider movies that, while still not great films, people did somewhat enjoy them. And then movies like Alone in the Dark would come out and drag everything back down to square one. While it does feel like it right now, video game adaptations didn't just start to be successful this year. The last few years have seen video game adaptations really start to pick up in terms of popularity and financial success. The last two Sonic the Hedgehog movies have seen moderate success both critically and financially. The Uncharted movie was a box office hit. Even the recent Mortal Kombat remake was successful enough that a sequel for it is currently in production. The Witcher is, well, I haven't watched it, but apparently it's okay. That being said, the last few years also saw the release of Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City and the Netflix series simply called Resident Evil. Both were critical and financial failures. And don't even get me started on that Monster Hunter movie. Oh, and the Halo TV show, that was hot garbage. My point is, video game adaptations are on a winning streak lately, but by no means are they bulletproof. But one thing is certain, people are definitely noticing that video game adaptations aren't just straight up box office poison anymore. Considering that every studio and streaming platform is looking for their next major franchise, after seeing the success of projects like The Last of Us and the Mario movie, I think a lot of people are going to start scrambling to secure the rights to adapt a major video game franchise into the next big TV show or movie. It also helps that right now there are a lot of franchises to pick from. But this sudden craze for video game adaptations is reminding me a lot of the reaction that the industry had towards the MCU being a runaway success. When most studios looked at Marvel's success with its interconnected movies based on the classic comic book characters, they all scrambled to find the next big franchise. DC is still trying to this day to make a DC Comics movie universe and have yet to build anything remotely close to the MCU. Sony is still desperately trying to make its Spider-Man movie universe with B-list comic book supervillains, and Universal's Dark Universe crashed and burned after the very first movie. Nobody has been able to come close to Marvel, but that hasn't stopped studios from trying to find the next big franchise that will turn into 10 movies and 3 spin-off television shows. Hollywood is creatively bankrupt. Studios aren't looking for original ideas anymore. They want an IP that they can turn into a movie franchise. After the success that video game adaptations have seen lately, studio executives are going to be tearing through their Steam backlog to try and find find any game that they can turn into the next Last of Us. Sooner or later, somebody is bound to strike gold, and I think the next big movie franchise is going to be based off of a video game. The next MCU is going to be ripped straight off of your PlayStation and put onto the cinema screen. After Mario and Last of Us, everybody is going to want to get into the video game adaptation business, just like the MCU gave Hollywood comic book superhero fever. Video games are probably the easiest medium to adapt into live action film and television now. Back in the day, you didn't have much to go off of apart of a few pixels, but now you don't even have to write a movie like Uncharted. All you had to do was play Uncharted 4 and then recreate that in live action. For decades, video game movies shared very little with their source material because again, there was not much to go off of. I mean, all you have to do is look at the Super Mario movie from 1993 compared to the one that just came out this year to see how these adaptations have evolved. Now The Last of Us is basically just the game played out with real actors and minor narrative embellishments. And the new Mario movie looks just like the games, for the most part. Two of the most successful video game adaptations of all time are extremely faithful to the source material and change very little in the translation. My point? In a lot of cases, all you have to do is recreate the game's cutscenes in live action or animation to make a successful video game adaptation. Because in essence, that's why adaptations like Mario and The Last of Us work so well. Video game movies and television are already written, storyboarded, and acted out. All a studio has to do is pick a game and translate the rendered actions into live action. You want your video game MCU? Nintendo already has it. People loved Mario and it's a financial success. Nintendo is definitely going to greenlight a sequel, so where do they go after Mario 2? Zelda? Star Fox? F-Zero? Kirby? Give each character a movie in the same vein as Mario, and after each character and their universe is established, you bring it all together in a Super Smash Bros. Movie. Imagine in 10 years if we got a Super Smash Bros. Movie in the same vein as Avengers Endgame. Let's be honest, a lot of people play video games, but a lot more people watch television and movies. Most people have never heard of Metal Gear Solid or Splinter Cell or BioShock or Devil May Cry. All of these rich stories and experiences that people don't get to experience because they don't want to pick up a controller. For gamers, watching a video game adaptation is ultimately a flawed experience from the beginning because they have already experienced the most immersive version of that story. But for most audiences who don't play video games, these adaptations give them a chance to experience stories that they might never have gotten in the first place. That's one of the reasons why The Last of Us was such a success. It told the exact same story that devastated gamers back in 2013 and used a new medium to drag that trauma into 2023 for an entirely new audience. For people who played the game, it was a nice reminder of how great the game is, but for people who first experienced the story through the TV show, it's an entirely new story. That's the untapped goldmine of video game adaptations. You have fully realized stories and concepts that only a small number of people have experienced. Video game adaptations have the attractive quality of appealing to a dedicated audience who already love the game and presenting an entirely new concept to general audiences. It's the perfect vehicle to bring new stories to modern audiences for studios who are too lazy to look for original ideas. Video game adaptations are starting to pick up in a big way. God of War is getting a TV show. Gears of War is getting a movie and TV show. Netflix is making a BioShock movie. Ghost of Tsushima is getting a movie. Hell, they're even trying to make a Metal Gear Solid movie. It's going to be interesting to see how all of this plays out. Are we in a golden age for video game adaptations? Are we past the Mortal Kombat Annihilations and the Max Paynes?
You're alive. Too bad you
will die.
Only time will tell, but the future looks bright for now. So, what do you guys think of all this? Are you for video game adaptations, or would you rather that video games just stay video games? Let me know in the comments below. Until the next video, guys, stay safe, stay happy, and stay healthy. Cheers.
Yeah!